The Poetic and Prophetic Books. 8. Daniel. 595 to 534 BCE. Of course, Daniel has been found in a 1500 BCE text, which relates to older stuff, but that's certainly what they thought maybe 100 years ago, because I don't think that was found at the time. The book of Daniel records a number of interesting events which properly belong to the period of Hebrew history covered by the Babylonian captivity. They might have been better on some accounts considered under that head, but some of these events have also a prophetic bearing, and as history and prophecy are somewhat closely intermingled here, it seems better on the whole to take the whole work together. See, it was reworked into a more Israelite context instead of a general. The prophetic parts of the book are marked by a definiteness and clearness which we scarcely find in any of the other prophets. Then why so many interpretations? Though, even here, there are some predictions, the design of which it is yet difficult to determine. This is particularly the case with those in chapters 11 and 12. Some of these have been made the basis of curiously minute calculations relating to a great variety of historical developments. Many have thought they found in them clear intimidations of events and series of events in modern history reaching into the present century and determining the time of the final summation previous to the second coming of Christ. Well, by Christ, they mean Jesus, because there's obviously a whole series of Christs in the Bible, aren't there? But probably these prophecies have their principal fulfillment in the times and relations of the Jewish nation before the first advent, while at the same time containing intimidations of the character and development of the Messianic kingdom. It was always what the followers of the prophets and messiahs should be as a kingdom, as a people. But when have they ever taken it up as a nation? Surely not among the Israelites, except for maybe a couple of weeks where they behave in the presence of a prophet, and then they kind of, However, maybe with those passages, a very large proportion of the book contains unusually definite statements concerning events then future. Well, scholars say the earliest writings of this book were after these events. So, the interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream in chapter 2, and the vision of the four beasts in 7, and again in 8, are of this kind. See, they talk about clearness, and it's like, well, unless they're talking about physical beings that's their form in another realm, then these indicate the succession of four great world empires are widely conquering forces. These, the Babylonian, the Medo-Persian, the Grecian, and the Syrian, the last anticipating and ultimately merging in the Roman. And it was, doubtless, one of the double intentions of prophecy, which you find many examples. Now, there's certain ways of speaking, like the book of Revelations is clear, it's talking about the time, if you know what people were saying about the time. Rome and stuff like that. The different things about the armies and Greece. And yeah, it was clear that it was talking about something about the time. and felt that Jesus was going to come back that generation. And the whole generation thing is being reinterpreted every single time, just like Daniel is reinterpreted to, predict the future again and again and again. And people are saying, well, it's going to be true when we do this at some point. I don't think prophetic books are mostly about predicting the future. I think they're missing the main point. Among the marvelous instances of extraordinary power in which human wisdom and divine inspiration mingled among the Hebrew worthies are the interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's second dream, where the prophet courageously indicated that monarch's sins and the fearful punishment about it overtook him, and the fearful punishment about to overtake him. The letter is blurred here. Also, the interpretation of the writing on the wall announcing to the terrified Belshazzar the instant doom of himself and his empire. And see, you knew by the fact that his friend was renamed to Abednego that they were calling him Lucifer, the light bringer. Same thing with his title. His title indicated that too, but that made it clearer. So remember, Lucifer in the Bible is not a term for devil. Well, I mean, some of the Bibles wrote it in like it was, but not in the Aramea, not in the Greek, not in... The most interesting portion of the book to Christian readers is the explicit prophetic statement of the time of the coming of the Messiah, 9:24-27, by the prophetic symbolism of days for years and weeks for corresponding periods. We have 490 years from a designated event as the period at the end of which the Messiah should close his mission. This is found to correspond to the facts as verified in the appearance and crucifixion of Christ. And now the historians say that Jesus Christ is basically an egregor based on four historical people that, one was contemporary with Paul, and they had to wait about 20 years for him to die to write the canonical Gospels, except for John. And this is historically verified that they waited about 20 years until the 120s before they started writing Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John was a rewrite of something from Bacchus 4 centuries earlier. And one character was among the Essenes, who was around 80 years before the total birth of Christ. So they picked a date within the range for him to have been alive. First part, who was Daniel? Who should think of his family connection and personal appearance? So when you look for a historical Jesus, they can't find it. But if you believe these things and you make use of them, what should you think of the family connection and personal appearance? What distinction was shown him and his three friends in their early youth? 1-6. What objections were urged to the diet and training to which they were to be subjected? What was done? And the result, Daniel 1:1-20. What extraordinary event occurred in which Daniel's ability was called into requisition? 2:1-45. The consequence to Daniel and his friends, 46-49. Nebuchadnezzar's golden image and his decree concerning its worship. The refusal of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and their heroic conduct. give the narrative 3, 1 through 30. The second dream of Nebuchadnezzar and the impotence again of his magicians, 4, 1 through 7. And obviously we're dealing with Zoroastrians here. Because they're the Chaldeans, the Kushti, relates to the fact that they said the Kushti 5 times a day, and it's not. It's better than how the Bible portrays these people. But Daniel's bold exhortation and rebuke to the king and his remarkable interpretation, verses 8 through 27, so 1 through 7, 4, and also of chapter 4, fulfillment of the vision and prediction, the king's humiliation and acknowledgement, 28 through 37. You want people to admit the truth, but humiliates really shouldn't be a goal in itself, should it? The grand banquet of Belshazzar, profanation of the Jewish sacred vessels, chapter 5, verse 1 through 4, appalling apparition and the mysterious inscription, Daniel's interpretation and announcement of Belshazzar's doom and the overthrow of his kingdom, verses 5 through 28, whether it was in the recent equinox ceremony or otherwise, some of the appearances, some of the spiritual experiences can sound maybe like they'd be bad or something, but they're more shocking and they're kind of deeply affecting. They're not, not harmful or not, oh, this is offensive, 838. Babylon taken by Cyrus. Cyrus is listed as a Messiah. End of the Assyrian Empire. The Medo-Persian extended. Masiach, The Medo-Persian extended over the whole eastern world, verse 30 and 31. Give such account as you can of the walls and fortifications of Babylon. How was the city taken? Mention some of the prophecies concerning its destruction. Jeremiah 51, especially 1 through 4, 7 through 14, 27 to 32, 37, Isaiah 45, 1 through 3, 46, and 13, verses 19 through 22. Before these events, what king had reigned in Babylon beside Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar? And what events of Jewish interest occurred in his reign? 2 Kings 25, verse 27 through 30. Daniel's eminence under the reign of Darius, the jealousy of the princes, and the conspiracy against him. Daniel 6, 1 through 19, give an account of the affair, the mortification of the king, and the deliverance of Daniel. The final outcome, 10 through 25. That's a interesting part of that story, isn't it? Second part, what remarkable vision did Daniel have in the first year of Belshazzar? 7, 1 through 14. What did the 4 beasts symbolize according to the interpretation given to Daniel? And just like the vision in the New Testament of the descending plate, it doesn't say you can eat whatever, consume whatever, eat and drink whatever garbage you want. All those laws are for it. No, that's not the interpretation. So you look at the actual interpretation that's listed, if there's an interpretation given, because this is supposed to be the first thing you look at. Or what most remarkable character is assigned to that which is symbolized by the 4th beast? What was to overthrow and supersede all these? 15 through 28. What remarkable vision do you find described as appearing to the prophet 2 years later? 8, 1 through 12. Give some account of the prayer of Daniel near the beginning of the reign of Darius, its objects, its character, and its spirit. 9, 4 through 15. For what did he specially ask? 16 through 19. What answer was given him and what remarkable event is predicted? 20 through 27. Reckoning prophetic time as a year for a day. How many years are these 70 weeks supposed to symbolize? What is the decree for the restoration of Jerusalem here referred to? Ezra 7, 11 through 26. How long before Christ's birth was this? How long before the crucifixion? What befell the prophet 2 years later? 10, 1 through 3. What vision did he have? 4 through 6. What comforting words were spoken to him? 11, 12. Now, don't think that by imaginatively working through these things that you're going to have the same type of vision. But psychedelically or something, yeah, why it's something that you can strive for. And some of it's quite amazing, the psychedelic sort of things. But getting in touch with the myth that way, without arrogance, overstepping your claims, why not? What is predicted to take place in some remote future? What great doctrine of Christianity seems to be expressed here? Chapter 12, 1 through 3, and I'm not sure what the ancient alien theorist people have to say about the book of Daniel. I don't remember, but I'm sure they said something. But, we clearly don't have to think that. Going back over all the prophecies and visions of Daniel, while there is much that is not easy to understand, what important outlines of history are discernible? What four great world empires seem to be foreshadowed?